I am 51 years old, and I had no idea that I had a personality disorder until I was 51 years old. Now, you might be saying, how is this possible? How does somebody go their whole life, in my case, more than half a century, and have no idea that they have a personality disorder? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain 8 reasons why people are walking around on this planet with no clue that they have a personality disorder. And by no means is this an exhaustive list. So if you can think of any other reasons that I haven't mentioned in this video, please share it in the comments. So let's start with the obvious. And I would say the number one reason that people don't know they have a personality disorder is because they don't know the disorder exists. And I've got 2 clients that I've diagnosed with PDs who have said this to me. One is a schizoid and the other is an avoidant PD. And both of these people came back to me after researching the diagnosis, and both of them said, I had no idea this was a thing. I've never heard of this. So naturally, you can't know if you don't know that the thing exists. And that's one of the goals of this channel, is to educate people on these other disorders that many people haven't heard of. And that leads me to number 2. The second reason people don't know that they have a personality disorder is because they're distracted by fashionable diagnoses. So today, most people are aware, or as I prefer to say, hyper aware of narcissism and NPD. And the more you hear about certain diagnoses, the less you hear about other ones. So a lot of times people are distracted by these more popular, or as I like to say, fashionable diagnoses, and they will evaluate themselves honestly. And they'll say, this doesn't describe me, therefore I don't have a PD. And they would only be half correct. They would be correct in the evaluation that criteria for that particular diagnosis doesn't match their inner experience, but that doesn't mean they don't have a personality disorder. All it means is they don't have that personality disorder. And this is exactly what happened to me for years. When I honestly evaluated the criteria for NPD, I could recognize that I had one narcissistic trait. I've mentioned it many times on this channel. I identify with a type of arrogance, but that was it. I don't identify with anything else in the NPD criteria. If you're getting distracted by all the noise on social media and you're only being told to look at this one PD, if you don't have that PD, all that means is you don't have that PD. You absolutely can have another diagnosis and not know it. The third reason why people don't know that they have a personality disorder is because of personality disorder stereotypes. And I would say the single biggest stereotype of personality disorders in general is that people with personality disorders are chaotic and out of control. That's true of only some personality disorders. It's not true of all of them. Just about every mental health condition, not just PDs, but any mental health condition, is a matter of somebody being too chaotic or too rigid. And so there are a lot of people walking around out there that are not chaotic. It's a stereotype like this that can cause you to go your whole life thinking, I don't have a problem, when you still have a problem. It's just a different kind of problem. The fourth reason why people have no idea that they have a personality disorder is that they misunderstand the criteria. I find that a lot of times this is a matter of the Mandela effect, We think we know what the DSM says, but we're actually not remembering it correctly. And this is one of the things that I encountered last year when I was researching schizoid PD. And I could have sworn that in order to have a diagnosis of schizoid personality disorder, you had to have a flat affect. And I kept saying to myself, well, see, then I'm excluded, right? I don't count because I don't have a flat affect. In order to have a diagnosis of schizoid personality disorder, you need only 4 of 7 criteria. A flat affect is one of those criteria. So it's not necessary to meet that criterion in order to have the diagnosis. By misunderstanding the criteria, I didn't know that I actually do fit the description of a schizoid. And truth be told, I found out about this condition in the fall of 2000. So I actually went 24 years not knowing that I actually did fit that criteria because I was misunderstanding the criteria that I was reading. Number 5, you could be walking around with a personality disorder and not know it because you function so well in society. Now, again, this might be a shock to some of us because when we look at the criteria of a personality disorder in general, that criteria says that this is a condition that's pervasive and it affects all areas of life. But what people don't realize is that even people with personality disorders, they have one thing that they do really, really well. And so it's possible for somebody to find a job or a career where they do that one thing as a central part of their job. That person may be functioning very, very well in that position and have no idea that there's something wrong because perhaps they're not spending equal amount of time in other scenarios, in other situations where the problematic personality traits would start to reveal themselves. So many people out there have learned, this is my strength, I'm going to work it, and they coast through life in this manner, having no clue that they're actually disordered patterns in other areas of their lives. The 6th reason why people don't know they have a personality disorder is that they don't realize that their inner experience is different from others. Now, I grew up on Long Island, and not a lot of people know this, but on Long Island, it's actually a law that you have to be a Billy Joel fan. If you don't like Billy Joel, they don't let you live there. So I grew up listening to a lot of Billy Joel. And one of my favorite Billy Joel songs is The Stranger. And the very opening lyrics of that song are, we all have a face that we hide away forever, and we take them out and show ourselves when everyone is gone. Now, I can remember being a little kid listening to that and saying, yeah, so I know that I have a hidden side to myself, and I don't take that out and show people. I only show that side of myself to me when nobody else is there. And notice Billy Joel said, we all have a face that we hide away forever. He didn't say some of us have a face that we hide away forever. So here I am thinking, this is normal. I had no idea that my inner experience was different from other people. And while I do believe that Billy Joel was telling the truth, we all do have a side to ourselves that nobody really knows about. I think schizoid people go to extremes, which is another Billy Joel song, but I digress. So yeah, if you don't know that what you're thinking and feeling is very, very different than what the average person is thinking and feeling, you're never going to know that you have a personality disorder. Number 7, people have no idea that they have a personality disorder because people have accommodated them all their lives. Sometimes people are so hard to get along with. Certain people with certain personality disorders can be so challenging to relate to that people size them up and say, you know what, it is not worth it. I'm not going to argue with this person. I'm not going to try to reason with this person. Just tell them what they want to hear. And unfortunately, that is a huge disservice to the person with the personality disorder. But I can't blame the people who do this because, again, that individual is so high conflict that it's like, just give them what they want, tell them what they want to hear, and get them out of here. If somebody has that kind of impact on everyone they meet, and everyone they meet is just giving them what they want, then unfortunately what that does is it reinforces the problematic belief that that person with the personality disorder is normal or right or correct. And I actually had an encounter with somebody in my personal life this summer who I assume this is what happened with her. This was a woman who was 70 years old and decided to correct my speech within 2 minutes of meeting me for the first time. This lady had no insight. Not only was she correcting something that was not wrong to begin with, but she didn't realize that her decision to correct me 2 minutes after knowing me was not socially appropriate. And so later, when I confronted her about that, she doubled down and insisted that she was correct and doing me a favor and that I was wrong. And I had no choice but to just let it go. And I remember thinking to myself, how does somebody get to be 70 years old and not understand that she's wrong? Well, I'm not much better. I made it to past 50 and I didn't know. But this is one of the things that I'm hoping to help in this area, that we've got to start looking within. And it's hard. It's hard to see that our way is not the right way. It's hard to even consider that maybe there is no right way. People are different. There's no two people who are going to look at something the same way. And if we insist on forcing the entire human race to conform to our way of looking at things and doing things, we're going to be walking around with a personality disorder and we're not going to know. And maybe one day we will be 70 years old and still turning people off. So yes, if too many people are accommodating, if too many people are just jumping when we say jump and giving us what we want, that is not a good thing. That's actually a problem. And the eighth and final reason why people have a personality disorder but have absolutely no clue is that they simply don't understand what a personality disorder is. These days, people think a personality disorder is being morally deficient, being evil, being demonic, being intentionally difficult, intentionally, purposely causing problems. And that is not at all what a personality disorder is. As I've already explained in this video, a lot of those stereotypes, thinking that a personality disorder is just somebody who's incredibly emotionally dysregulated and chaotic and impulsive. That is not what a personality disorder is. A personality disorder is a pattern of behavior and thoughts and feelings that are pervasive throughout a person's life and cause that person to experience life in ways that are problematic and can cause people problems in their occupation, in their relationships, in just daily living, even interacting with other people. And so you have a lot of people out there that are under the impression that they have about 5 or 6 mental illnesses when really they only have one. I myself, when I was a teenager, I fit the criteria for OCD, general anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, depersonalization, derealization disorder. I mean, that's 4 diagnoses right off the bat. Did I really have 4 mental illnesses? Or is my problem better explained by a personality disorder? And in my case, yes, the personality disorder makes so much sense and streamlines and simplifies, all these disorders. So I think a lot of times people don't understand that if you have a half a dozen mental health diagnoses, the problem is probably within your own way of being. And it doesn't mean that it can't be treated. It doesn't mean that it can't get better. But it's important to understand and consider this as a possibility, because if you're going to therapy for 20 years and you have a half dozen diagnoses and nothing's getting better, it could be because you have a personality disorder. And I will say this, I'm making it a habit to mention the possibility of a personality disorder to people when I meet them early on, because I want to help them gain the insight they need so that they can actually make progress. So some of these people stick with me, but some of them run and I never see them again. If you don't understand what a personality disorder is, it's your choice. You can run from that and you won't get better. And you will be another one of these people that is walking around for yet another decade of your life, not getting the answers because you're refusing to consider that this is the problem. So those are my 8 reasons why it's possible to go through life and have no clue that you have a personality disorder. As I said, if you can think of any others, leave them in the comments. I'm Jen Guerriero, and this is Poisonous People. Thanks for watching.